Welcome back to another edition of Letterboxd Highlights. In case you didn't already know, this is the series where I recap the best and most interesting films I've watched in the previous month. This time we're taking a look at July of 2019. Ari Aster mostly avoids the sophomore slump because the good stuff far outweighs the bad. Not everything in this film works, but it doesn't really matter. It's stunning, the creative cinematography, the sets, the production design, that by itself gives this film a really solid base. But then you add in some wonderful performances, especially from Florence Pugh. And I hope it doesn't go unnoticed, but the special effects team deserve a lot of praise for their work on this film. Now, I've only seen it once, but after that one viewing, I generally believe that this might be my favourite live-action Spider-Man film. I love what they do with Peter's superhero journey, and Mysterio is the fucking shit. Jake Gyllenhaal is perfectly cast. I was kind of already thinking this because I hate Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield was a good Spider-Man, not a great Peter Parker, but Tom Holland is possibly the best Peter Parker and Spider-Man of all the Spider-Man live-action films, to be fair. And Zendaya possibly takes place as best MJ. That's probably hearsay to some people, but she's just great, honestly. This was the perfect palate cleanser after Endgame. This one didn't hook me that quickly, but as the film progressed, I became more and more enamored with it. I think it's pretty apparent that the Coen brothers hadn't quite perfected their style yet. As was the case with Raising Arizona and Blood Simple, the quirks that we've come to love and enjoy aren't quite there yet. This is especially apparent in this film with the dialogue because it lacks that snap and wit that really makes their films pop. However, the character work is there and strong performances make each character unique. I will say this film is at its best when it embraces its wacky nature, especially the police raids. That is some good shit. We're presented with a story about a family that's trying to fight back against the Industrial Revolution that's slowly taken over its land. Add in some strange horror elements and you get this film. It's helped by an absolutely stellar performance from Eleanor Worthington Cox, who is the one ray of light in this extremely bleak affair, though once her hope begins to fade, yours goes with it. It's also probably one of the best looking films I've seen released this year. I've always been really torn on the Welsh countryside as a setting because I kind of sort of grew up in it. I mean, I grew up in a town, but you know, it was a small town, so we had a lot of greenery and shit. But this film really makes it work. And then you had some wonderful use of minimal lighting in pitch black scenarios, and it's breathtaking, honestly. This film shouldn't be as compelling as it is. It's basically just a collage of visual and oral archival material from the Apollo 11 mission, but it works so damn well, and the 4K material is, pardon the pun, out of this world. I guess growing up it was fairly difficult to comprehend just the sheer scale of this event. I mean, I'm only 20 years old currently, and I've never lived in a world where we hadn't landed on the moon. So to me as a child, it was just something that had happened. But as I've grown older, I've become more and more enamored with space. Even though I've learned just how terrifying it is, there's something about it that just brings me some great childlike wonder. We live in fairly divisive times, I think that's fair to say. And it's fairly difficult to imagine an event that is capable of doing what this did. And that's bringing the whole world together, even if just for a brief period of time. Harry, played by Clint Eastwood, is a fairly sharp-tongued, take no shit, shoot first, ask questions later type cop who doesn't quite play by the law. It's very much the archetype for an era of film that a lot of people hold fond memories of and produce some fairly iconic characters and films. Anyway, it's a fairly satisfying watch. It's likely a product of its time, but for me, Harry never really does anything that makes him detestable, like some more modern films would do. Clint plays him as a fairly staunch man with quick wit, though there are definite moments throughout the piece where the mask kind of slips, and despite everything, you can tell that Harry does care about people, even if it's in his own way. The narrative itself is actually pretty good as well. It takes a bit of a different formula than normal, and it actually doesn't end with Harry. Well, Harry does get his guy in the end, but it has kind of a false ending to it, and then it does something pretty interesting in using the killer uses Harry's nature against him about not obeying the law and stuff. But in the end, it doesn't really matter that much. They probably could have done something a bit better with it than using it as a basically an excuse to keep the film going. But it still works pretty well, and it's an enjoyable watch nevertheless. And that is all for this edition of Letterboxd Highlights. If you enjoyed what you just watched, be sure to check out the other episodes of the series and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to read longer reviews of these films and check out the other things that I've watched in the past month, be sure to check out my Letterboxd below in the description. And yeah, that's everything. I still don't have a way of ending these videos. I'm gonna have to come up with one.